Maya Johnson had always believed that adventure found those who weren't looking for it. That morning, standing at the gleaming marina, she couldn't have predicted that today's work event would turn into something unforgettable. The luxury sailing yacht bobbed gently in the water, its polished wood gleaming under the early sun. She adjusted her bag and took a deep breath, the salty air filling her senses, knowing that whatever awaited inside might change the course of her week, or her life. She stepped onto the deck, greeted by the hum of excited chatter. Colleagues mingled, glasses clinking, laughter spilling into the open sea. But her eyes couldn't help noticing him. Ethan Kim, tall, impeccably dressed, with a quiet confidence that didn't demand attention but naturally drew it, stood near the railing, surveying the horizon with a calm, almost unreadable expression. His presence was magnetic in the kind of way that made her forget her perfectly practiced introduction. "Hi, I'm Maya," she said, offering a handshake that felt smaller than the sudden flutter in her chest. Ethan's eyes met hers, warm and steady, and he returned her greeting with a soft smile. "Ethan," he replied, his voice smooth, carrying a quiet authority that was somehow inviting. As the crew prepared the yacht for departure, Maya found herself stealing glances at him, noticing the way he moved with ease and grace, even in the controlled chaos of pre-sale preparations. A storm was rumored on the horizon, and though most guests brushed it off, a small knot of unease settled in her stomach. Little did she know, the storm wasn't just in the weather, it was about to sweep her into a night she would never forget, sharing a space she never imagined with a man she had just met. The storm arrived faster than anyone anticipated. By late afternoon, dark clouds rolled across the horizon, and the wind picked up, tugging at the yacht's sails with an insistent force. Maya gripped the railing, her heart pounding, not entirely from fear, but from the unfamiliar thrill of uncertainty. Guests hurried to their cabins, laughter turning into murmurs of worry, and through the chaos she noticed Ethan moving calmly among them, offering quiet instructions with a patience that seemed almost unreal. When the captain announced that the yacht would remain anchored overnight due to the worsening storm, panic flickered in Maya's chest. Rooms were limited, and a sudden wave of embarrassment hit her. There was no room left. Before she could ask, Ethan stepped forward, his voice even and reassuring. "We'll share the master suite. It's large enough," he said. Maya blinked. What? The idea of sharing a cabin with a man she had just met made her cheeks flush. Yet, as she looked at him, she noticed there was no smugness, no arrogance, only a quiet understanding of her hesitation. "Only for the night," he added, a small smile easing the tension. "I'll respect your space." The evening became a dance of polite navigation. They arranged sleeping spaces with careful attention, each movement shy and deliberate. Yet, amid the awkwardness, Maya couldn't help but notice Ethan's thoughtfulness, the way he made sure she had a blanket within reach, the little gestures that spoke louder than words. By the time the lights flickered and the rain began to drum against the cabin windows, a subtle comfort had settled between them. In the middle of uncertainty, in a space neither had expected to share, a tentative bond was forming, a fragile promise that this night, stranded in the middle of the sea, might just be the beginning of something neither of them anticipated. Morning arrived with a gentle calm, the storm having passed, leaving the yacht glistening under soft sunlight. Maya woke to the sound of waves lapping against the hull, her thoughts still lingering on the strange closeness of the night before. Sharing a room with Ethan had been unexpectedly comforting. His presence had been steady, quiet, and somehow reassuring. She found him on the deck, leaning against the railing, a steaming cup of coffee in his hand. The sight of him there, looking so effortlessly calm, made her pause. Ethan noticed her, and his lips curved into a small, inviting smile. "Morning," he said. "Morning," she replied, adjusting her jacket against the cool breeze. The first conversation came easily, almost naturally. Ethan spoke of the places he'd traveled, stories of bustling cities, quiet villages, and sunsets he'd chased around the world. Maya shared her own passions, her work, her love for spontaneous adventures, the little quirks that made her laugh at herself. Laughter bubbled between them more freely than either had anticipated, bridging the gap of familiarity and distance. For the first time, Maya saw beyond the polished exterior of the billionaire. There was warmth in his gaze, a gentle patience in his tone, and a sincerity in the way he listened. She felt herself opening up in ways she hadn't expected, realizing that this man, who had seemed so untouchable, was human and perhaps someone who could understand her. When the conversation lulled, they stood in companionable silence, watching the waves dance beneath the morning sun. Without planning it, Ethan offered a light hug, brief yet meaningful, a quiet acknowledgement of shared comfort and trust. Maya returned it instinctively, feeling the subtle pull of connection, a seed of something deeper planted in the midst of the endless ocean around them. Night had settled over the yacht, and the soft creak of wood beneath their feet was the only sound accompanying the gentle rocking of the vessel. Maya sat on the edge of her side of the master suite bed, tracing patterns on the blanket as the storm outside whispered its warnings. Though the day had been calm, her thoughts refused to settle, tension tightening in her chest with each gust of wind. Ethan noticed immediately. He approached quietly, not wanting to startle her, and leaned against the doorway, observing her with a patience that somehow put her at ease. "The storm will pass," he said softly, almost as if speaking to himself as much as to her. "I know," Maya replied, her voice small, "but it still unsettles me." Without another word, Ethan moved closer, offering the simplest form of reassurance: his presence. He sat beside her, careful not to crowd, and in a gesture that felt instinctive rather than calculated, he gently wrapped her in a hug. It was a hug of protection, quiet and grounding, and Maya felt the tension in her shoulders ease in a way words could never achieve. For a few moments they stayed like that, two strangers who had, in mere hours, become allies against the uncertainty of the night. The hug was warm, unspoken, a language of comfort that needed no explanation. Maya rested her head lightly against his chest, and Ethan's hand remained firm on her back, steady and reassuring. When they finally pulled back, the room felt softer, calmer, the storm outside less threatening. Neither spoke, but in the silence, something unspoken had passed between them, a subtle acknowledgement that in this vast ocean, they had found a small island of safety in each other. The morning sun streamed through the yacht's windows, painting the deck in warm gold. Maya had decided to take the helm, curious to test her limited sailing skills. Ethan watched from nearby, arms crossed but a faint smirk tugging at his lips. "Careful," he warned, stepping closer. "The sails are tricky for first-timers." "I've got this," Maya replied, determination sparkling in her eyes. She tugged at the ropes with a bit more confidence than skill, only to have the sails sway unpredictably. Ethan chuckled softly, moving to help her steady them. "See? I told you," he teased, though there was no malice in his tone, only amusement. Their morning became a series of small challenges: steering the yacht, adjusting sails, even a light-hearted cooking attempt in the small galley. Every time Maya's hands brushed his, she felt a flutter of warmth. Each time he offered a hand to steady her, or leaned close to guide a maneuver, the proximity lingered a little longer than necessary. At one point, while trying to balance a tray of breakfast pastries, they collided gently, laughter spilling over as they steadied each other. Maya found herself resting a brief, grateful hug on his arm, and Ethan returned it with a reassuring squeeze. Hours passed in this playful rhythm, the tension of the stormed night replaced by laughter and shared victories. Their connection grew through teasing remarks, small touches, and moments of genuine encouragement. Maya realized that with Ethan, even ordinary tasks felt exciting, like a private world existed for just the two of them. As the sun climbed higher, they paused on the deck, shoulders brushing, smiles lingering. Something unspoken hummed between them: affection, trust, and a deepening curiosity that neither wanted to ignore. The bond they were forming was no longer tentative. It was alive, playful, and full of promise. The afternoon sun disappeared behind a sudden curtain of gray, and rain began to fall in thick, steady sheets. Maya and Ethan had been on the deck, enjoying the breeze, when the first droplets hit their skin. Laughter erupted instinctively as they scrambled to find cover, the yacht transforming into a maze of slippery surfaces and wet sails. Finally they ended up beneath the small overhang near the helm, dripping and breathless. Maya glanced at Ethan, whose hair was damp, clinging slightly to his forehead, and she couldn't help but notice the softness in his eyes, a warmth that contrasted the storm raging around them. "I didn't expect this," Maya admitted, laughing nervously, "to get caught in a rainstorm." Ethan smiled, his gaze steady. "Neither did I," he said quietly. "But I like moments like this. Unplanned, real." A pause settled between them, charged yet gentle. The world seemed to shrink to just the two of them, the rain providing a shield of privacy. Maya felt a flutter in her chest, a mix of excitement and something deeper: trust, curiosity, and the tiniest spark of something she didn't want to name aloud. Ethan moved closer, hesitating only for a heartbeat before he offered a hug, long, grounding, and entirely without expectation. Maya melted into it, feeling the steady beat of his heart, the calm assurance of his presence. She rested her head lightly against his chest, letting the storm outside mirror the rush of emotions inside her. When they finally pulled back, smiles lingered, unspoken words hovering in the space between them. For the first time, Maya realized that being with Ethan wasn't just about surviving a storm, it was about feeling safe enough to let her guard down, even just for a moment. And in that quiet intimacy, a bond was forming that neither rain nor sea could wash away. The storm had passed, leaving the yacht washed in a golden afternoon light. Maya and Ethan found themselves on the deck, feet bare, letting the gentle sway of the yacht ground them. Silence lingered comfortably between them, no need for words until Maya spoke first. "Have you ever thought about what you really want, beyond work, beyond expectations?" she asked, glancing at him. Ethan considered her question, eyes following the horizon. "I have," he said softly. "But it's hard to define sometimes. Life moves fast, responsibilities pile up. Sometimes you forget what you truly desire." Maya nodded, feeling a connection deepen with every word. "I think about it a lot," she admitted. "Traveling, learning, creating, and sharing those things with someone who understands." Ethan turned to her, a quiet intensity in his gaze. "I understand more than you might think," he said. "And I want to share those moments too, if I can." A warmth spread through Maya's chest, a mix of excitement and reassurance. Without thinking, she stepped closer, resting her head briefly on his shoulder. Ethan's arm instinctively came around her, holding her gently, a hug that spoke more than conversation could. In that embrace, there was trust, acknowledgement, and a growing desire to protect and cherish each other's hopes. They stayed like that, watching the sun melt into the horizon, exchanging stories of places they dreamed of visiting, of experiences they longed to have. Each word, each shared laugh, each hug, wove a tapestry of connection neither had anticipated when the yacht first departed. By the time the sky turned a soft lavender, Maya realized that the bond forming between them wasn't fleeting. It was real, anchored in shared dreams, mutual respect, and the quiet intimacy of knowing that someone else could see you clearly and still want to be near you. The yacht had returned to calmer waters, and a few other guests lingered on the deck, chatting and laughing. Maya noticed a young guest leaning toward Ethan, asking questions and laughing at his jokes. A strange flutter rose in her chest, an unfamiliar mix of protectiveness and something she couldn't quite name. Ethan caught her gaze and tilted his head, a soft smile tugging at his lips. "What's on your mind?" he asked gently. Maya hesitated, realizing she didn't want to admit how the small scene had unsettled her. "Nothing," she said quickly, trying to mask her feelings with a laugh. But Ethan didn't let it go. He moved closer, offering the kind of quiet attention that always made her feel safe. "You know you can tell me," he said, his voice patient. "I'd rather hear it than guess." Maya's defenses melted just enough. I guess I don't like seeing someone else close to you," she admitted, her words soft but honest. Ethan's expression softened, and before she could overthink, he pulled her into a long, comforting hug. It wasn't about possessiveness, it was reassurance, a quiet promise that she mattered. Maya felt her heartbeat slow as she rested against him, letting the warmth of his embrace ease the flutter of doubt and jealousy she hadn't expected. "Thank you for being honest," Ethan murmured, his cheek resting near her hair. "You're the one I want close. I hope you know that." In that moment, Maya understood the depth of her feelings. She wanted him, his presence, his calm, his care. And Ethan's hug confirmed that the bond between them was no longer tentative or playful. It was real, mutual, and increasingly impossible to ignore. The first light of dawn stretched across the horizon, painting the sky in gentle shades of pink and gold. Maya sat on the deck, wrapped in a light blanket, watching the waves shimmer under the rising sun. The quiet of the morning felt sacred, a soft pause after the whirlwind of the past days. Ethan joined her without a word, settling beside her. His presence was comforting, familiar, and yet it carried the weight of all the emotions neither had fully voiced. For a moment, they simply watched the ocean together, shoulders brushing, the warmth of proximity saying more than words could. Finally, Maya exhaled, breaking the silence. "Ethan, I'm glad we're here. Like this together," she said, her voice gentle but steady. Ethan turned to her, a small smile softening his usually composed expression. "I've been meaning to tell you the same thing," he admitted. "These days, with you, I feel something I haven't felt before." Maya's heart skipped, a thrill of anticipation and relief mingling together. "I feel it too," she whispered. "More than I expected, more than I thought I could." Without hesitation, Ethan offered a hug, long, warm, and unspoken. It was a hug that carried every emotion they hadn't yet said aloud: trust, comfort, excitement, and a quiet promise of care. Maya leaned into him, feeling safe, cherished, and completely seen. When they finally pulled back, their hands brushed, lingering in a gentle, unspoken promise. The sunrise bathed them in light, symbolizing the new beginning they had found in each other. The ocean around them seemed vast and endless, yet in that moment they had created a world of their own, anchored in honesty, affection, and the certainty that this bond was real. Back on land, the city felt different, brighter, more alive, and somehow smaller, as if the world had shrunk to just the two of them. Maya and Ethan walked along the marina, the memory of the yacht still fresh in their minds. Every glance, every smile carried the echo of the nights and days they had spent together at sea, a bond that had grown stronger than either had imagined. They shared quiet dinners, spontaneous weekend trips, and long evenings talking about dreams and future plans. Hugs became their language, a way to say what words could not. I'm here, I care, I love you, simple gestures that carried infinite meaning. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Maya leaned against Ethan, feeling the familiar warmth of his embrace. "Do you ever think about that first storm?" she asked softly, smiling. Ethan chuckled, holding her a little closer. "I do," he admitted. "And I'm grateful. It brought me to you." Maya smiled back, heart full. In that moment, they both understood that what had started as an unexpected night stranded on a yacht had grown into a love neither had anticipated but both had embraced fully. Their connection was no longer tentative or uncertain. It was steady, enduring, and anchored in trust, laughter, and affection. As they stood together, wrapped in each other's arms, Maya whispered, "Forever?" Ethan's response was a hug that lingered, a silent promise stronger than any words. "Forever," he said, his voice steady and warm. And with the ocean breeze around them and the city lights twinkling ahead, Maya knew that some adventures didn't end, they became a lifetime.